Hey guys, so I was tagged on Twitter by Ryan and Kristen over at Seeking Stories. They have this really cool tag, and I'm really excited. I didn't watch the video when it initially came out, but when they tagged me, I went and watched it, and I was like, man, why did I not see this? This is so good. And it's how to adapt a book tag. And I don't know if you know much about Seeking Stories. If you haven't checked their channel out, you really should. They're really awesome. They talk a lot about favorite books, but they also talk a lot about adapting books to the screen, and they've done some work on. I have a fly buzzing around the house, and it's bothering me like a crazy person. So if I try to kill it later, I will. Um, but they do a lot. I know Ryan talked about how he does like video editing for movie studios and has done like some production stuff. And I get really interested in it because I've consulted on elevators for a couple different movies. A movie called Felt, which is about the Watergate scandal. Helped out a little bit on the movie Hidden Figures, where the three black ladies helped with the space race. Um, and then there's been some movies at our church, and Guardians of the Galaxy 2 filmed part of it in Cartersville, Georgia, where I live. And so we're just always been really interested in movies. And when they talked about this one, this is a book that I'd love to see adapted, really more to a TV show, just because I don't want to lose as much as you can, the character development, the things like that. That I don't think you can develop a character the way a book can in a movie as well as you can in the TV show, to make that really play out that way. But if you're going to make only one, and you said, "Hey, we're just going to make this one," you could do it. It'd be the Black Prism. You could just make this a one-off story. You'd have to change a few things, but if you just made it one movie, or if you did a trilogy, even you kind of cut a lot out of the 5 books, I think you could do it. I wouldn't prefer you did it, but I'd love it to be a 7-season TV show where we really broke it down and dug into this story a lot. But I love Lightbringer. It's probably my second favorite fantasy series that I've ever read, right behind The Wheel of Time. Maybe even on a couple of rereads, it might even surpass it. I love it. It's amazing. I find the characters great. There are a few characters that I'd love to change and do some things with, but then it would be my story, not Brent Weeks' story. So I really appreciate what he did here, and I'm excited. Hopefully, he writes some more stories. The Lord God kind of guy. I hope he does like a prequel where you kind of learn about him and his. That's a whole nother thing. Maybe I'll talk about that one day, about him doing a prequel to that guy. But Lightbringer is so much fun. If you guys haven't checked it out, I've got a couple videos on the channel. I'll link in the description or up above, or one of the two. But Black Prism is the first one. It has an amazing twist in it, and that's why I thought it'd be a great one for a movie. So here's the first question. Congrats, you're attempting to adapt a favorite book into a movie, and the film studio is interested in financially backing your adaptation, but they want a brief summary of the story in 25 words or less. Give it all you've got in no more than 25 words. So if I had to stand in front of the heads and people to be, I would say The Black Prism is a story about Gavin Guile. He goes to find his son in a far-off land, and really is thrown into a war because of decisions he made. There's a magic system that is based on light, where different lights create different substances that you can use in the magic. And it has a twist. And that's how I would start it. I would say that's my intro in it. That if you want to know about the story, there you go. I will do a couple more spoilery things as we get through here, because it's like, what will you cut and things like that. Second question. Hooray, you've secured funding, but you have to cut a character because of the budget. What character do you cut? No cheating. It can't be Goblin number 2 or back character number 4. I would cut Karis. Not completely from the story. She'd be in movie 2. But you could put the things that Karis does in book 1 and the things that Viviana do in book 1, put them together, and do away with a whole storyline that Karis has that's really just dumb, and make Viviana a bigger character, which she should be in the book, I think, and really combine the two characters. You don't need a lot of the backstory you get in book 1 about who Karis is to Gavin. You can bring that all in book 2. It would make more sense to be in book 2 or movie 2. And then Viviana could be a much better, bigger character. The things she does in the end of the book could make a whole lot more sense. Um, and I think just cutting Karis all out of movie one, bringing her in movie two, and making Viviana a much bigger, stronger character would really satisfy that a lot. Question 3 is, which scene is going to be the most difficult to adapt from the book to a movie script? Not most difficult to film, but like to actually get on a movie script. And generally, I would think any time that you have inter dialogue. And the scene that I'm thinking about is the twist, where there's inner dialogue, where Gavin is thinking about things that he's not saying to someone because he can't tell that person that information. So adapting it where we see his personal thoughts, I don't know. I don't really like the, my inner thought voice thing in my head. Okay, well, I've got this. Well, I was thinking that blah, 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 blah. And then, they can't hear it, obviously, but we're hearing his inner thoughts. That's always kind of a cop out. And a lot of times movies can do a really good job of showing inner thoughts. Maybe as he's going to this place, he can speak to himself and go, man, I've really got to make sure that I don't tell him this and I don't tell him this and I don't, maybe that's a way that they could do it and it'd make a lot of sense. That would, I think, would be hard to go from book to script. Every time you do inner dialogue, it's always very hard. Number 4, your script is complete. Which scene do you anticipate being the most difficult to film? And for that one, I would say the battle scene at the end. I've always heard the battle scenes are hard. You talk about like the battle at Helm's Deep and things like that. They're rushing a wall, and then they rush through the wall, and then they rush through the slums of this town. And people are climbing up and clambering, and buildings are collapsing. There's cannon fire. There's all kinds of stuff like that. And then during the battle, they're literally trying to evacuate the civilians while fighting at the same time. So you would have masses of people, like huge masses of people, and people be everywhere, all over the place. And then you're trying to hone in on certain characters fighting in the battle, which had very, very important scenes fighting in this battle, where you're trying to hone in on focusing on them, and then you've got all this stuff going on in the background. It would be very difficult to film, I think. Number 5, what themes are vital to the story and must not be lost in translation? The thing that I hear a lot is that Kip is a whiny kid. And as a young man who struggled with a lot of the same things that Kip struggled with, growing up without a father, these are very, very real things that he was dealing with. And it could easily come across that Kip is just a whiny boy that is horny and can't focus on anything because he's looking at girls, and he literally messes everything up just like a teenage boy does. He can't stop thinking about women. He struggles with it, but he also struggles with his personal self-esteem. We can't lose that. And then also Gavin's sense of, I'm not good enough, but everyone thinks I'm good enough, and I have to continue this facade of the dynamic man. Every moment I speak, I have to project this vision of myself that's better than myself, even though inside I think I'm garbage. And those two things need to stay main points in the books, or when you adapt it from book to movie. If you don't adapt that, the characters are going to come across as flat, and nobody's going to like them. So, number 6, casting has begun. Who's going to play your main characters and why? So for me, I'll do Gavin, Kip, Iron Fist, Viviana, and Andros Guile. I might, if I could find a good Grinwoody, I might do Grinwoody. Grinwoody is that guy that, man, you got to pull him off well, or he just seems like just a complete jerk, which he kind of is. But so book 1, I'm going to do those characters. I'm going to look a couple names up real quick on my phone. That way I have them right for you. Hold on one second. Editing. Boom. All right. So who I've always imagined Iron Fist being is Lance Reddick, who he doesn't actually have the muscle mass for Iron Fist, but I've always imagined him being this guy. Really, if you could take Lance Reddick and bulk him up and maybe make him a few years younger, but I just his physical character, the way he portrays himself. I was a big fan of Fringe. He was also in Spartacus. I loved his character work there. I think he'd play Iron Fist spectacularly. Who I'd really like to see Andros Guile played by is Jeremy Irons. Jeremy Irons has this voice that, like, Andros spends a lot of time in the first book in the dark. So I would love to see him as, like, standing in the dark with the black glasses on, like, why are you here? You've made these mistakes. And his voice would just be so dynamic and awesome that I think he would play a good Andros Guile. And I've seen him play a couple bad guys that I think he could play Andros in a good way like that. Okay, so I actually had to pause the video and look up a couple names because I couldn't think of anybody for Kip. The guy I thought about for Kip was Shaman Brown Jr. He plays Stanley Papa, is his nickname, on the Chi, or the Chi, or it's like a Chicago-based show, like Chi-Town. And he's about the right age. He's got the curly hair. I'll put a picture up of him. Exactly how they talk about Kip with that curly hair. And he has a little bit of weight on him, but if he did some workouts, I think he could really pull it off. He's a fan favorite on that show. And don't know much about him, haven't watched the show, but the clips I've watched on YouTube, he seems like a really good character, and I think he'd play a good Kip. Viviana, I've always liked Victoria Justice. I thought she'd play a good character there. I think it's, I don't know why she's not getting more acting roles. I thought, when she was on Victoria, she did a great job. My kids are watching that right now. I thought, man, why is this girl not doing more than what she's doing? And the last one, there's a couple characters I think that could play Gavin, but I'd love to see Chris Pratt play him. I think Chris Pratt's funny. I think he does a good job, but I don't know if he could really get serious enough for the role. What he did when he was in the movie Passengers in Space, I thought his seriousness in that role, he could probably do it pretty well, and then he could be the grandiose person. Michael Fassbender might be good for it as well. Kind of thinking that mid-30s, he needs to have like a darker complexion but red hair. It's kind of a mixed bag. He's very mixed race, and then Kip is also mixed race. So it's like that. There's been so much mixing that they've got some different features where he's a bit more dark skinned, but he's got red hair, and then Kip has his mother was more darker complected, so he's a little bit darker than Gavin is, and so just kind of getting them the right way there. I don't know if maybe all that will even show up. Maybe a Spanish actor would do really well in that role. I'm not sure. Question 7. Who's going to adapt your movie and why? I would like to see like Denis Villeneuve. His name's hard to pronounce. But he's doing the Dune movie. He did Blade Runner 2049. He did Arrival. He has a very... just the look of his movies are great. I would love that. There's a lot of time that they spend out on the water. So any director that does really well, I wouldn't want like a big studio director to pick it up like James Cameron or somebody like that. I'd love somebody a little bit smaller, like the guy that did Shazam. He took a lot of care with that movie, and I thought it came across really well. It had the funny moments, but also had the serious moments. Somebody like that, I think, would be a good director for this movie. Question 8, what is the ideal length for this movie? And to keep in mind, most studios won't greenlight a movie 3 hours or plus, especially if it doesn't have like a built-in fan base. Like Lord of the Rings, you could make those movies as long as they were going to be, because it has that fan base that already had that. Everybody's going to watch it. Star Wars, you could probably pull that off. Any of the Marvel movies, you could pull it off. But on a movie like this, first movie out of the gate, no way we could make a 3-hour runtime. I think if you cut the right things and left enough, like I would love to make it where we don't actually do all of this book in one movie, but then have subsequent movies to tell the rest of the story. And I think if you did that and did it well, it would work out. I've seen them try to do that before, and then there's only one movie and it crashes and burns. So I'd say 2.5 hours. I wouldn't want to bore people and drag it out too much. So probably 2 hours if we can pull it off. 2 hours, 15 minutes, something like that. All right, number 9. Alas, the movie studio has said that your movie is too long and something has to be cut. I've already said that we could probably cut Karis's character completely, and so the entire time that she's over captured by Rask and being kind of prettied up and made into this bride kind of character, that all can go. There's no reason we need it, especially if we're taking Karis out of the scene. Number 10, pushback time. As the film's producer, there is a scene that you say cannot go. For me, this is the bullet blessing that Kip does in the Battle of Garriston. Man, this scene is so important for him, his character. He goes Green Gollum, basically covers himself in green Luxon, and is running and charging and fighting. He's getting bullets shot at him. And at one point, a man falls to his knees. He puts his hand on his head and forces the bullet through his head, basically blesses him with a bullet and kills him in that way. And it is such a powerful moment for the next movies. He has flashbacks to it. He realizes how much war has affected him, how in the heat of the moment he did something that sickens him. It can't go. Obviously, we're not going to get rid of the twist in the middle, and we're not going to get rid of the beginning where he meets his son and all that. But that one is a small moment, but it's an important moment, and I think we can't lose. All right, so the people that I want to tag for this that I think would have a lot of fun with it is Brad Proctor. He does a lot of horror. I'd love to see him think about adapting a horror book into a movie. A lot of them have been done, but I'd love to hear his thoughts on it. The Bookish Mom, she just read The Sword of Kaigan, and she was talking about that one. I'd love to hear if she wanted to do that one or a different one, either way. And then Leslie from The Nerdy Narrative. We both are big TV movie fans, and so a lot of times we'll read the book and the movie, and she talks about that a lot on her channel, and I'd love to see her thoughts on maybe one that she'd love to see adapted and kind of get that into a movie form as well. If you'd like to subscribe to the channel, I am having a lot of fun making YouTube videos, and I'd love to have you guys join us on this journey. I'm on Twitter a little bit, generally to promote the channel, mostly, and I kind of talk to a few friends on there, but mostly on Discord. We have a lot better conversations on there, I think, and I love being on Discord as well. We share fan art, we talk about just life stuff, we talk about book recommendations, movie recommendations, all that kind of stuff. So we'll see you guys next time. If you want to watch another video, there's one here that you can click on, and we'll see you. Bye.